Okay, I just saw this on social media, but Brothers Soon got canceled after one season. I
Mhm.
didn't finish. I didn't finish the last episode. But talk about spoon feeding. We were watching the episode, and like, there's one where the brother gets mad at his friend, and then you're like, oh, he's doing this to save him,
Mhm.
right? Like, because he
Yeah,
doesn't
yeah,
want him to
yeah.
join the gang.
Right.
And then you're like, oh, that's interesting. And then he walked towards his mom, and his mom's like, you're a good kid. You did that to save him. I was like, bro, like, no, we could have drawn that conclusion. You didn't need to tell us. You know what I mean? Whereas like Dune's like, you could draw the conclusion if you want or not, you know?
Yeah, it leaves it up
Right?
to the audience. Right.
Right. Guy Ritchie said that. He's like, if you have the eyes to see, you'll see what's there.
Mhm.
You know, like we don't need to tell you. For some people, it's like that's a cool story, but then the people who really know what's going on, they could see the parallels of like life and
Sure.
what's going on. You know,
Yeah.
and again, that's why Dune beat The Matrix for me, because it's like they jam packed it with so much stuff in
Right.
there. So the poison thing, did it not remind you of like ayahuasca? Like they all these are like rituals that they all do. There's like a spiritual component
Mhm.
to it,
Yeah, yeah,
to
yeah.
like, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like he's like he has to drink the poison in order to like see the truth,
Right.
you
Yeah, yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
which is like psychedelics, bro.
Mhm.
You're literally doing this. And what's crazy is like, remember the spice? They're like, uh I thought it was like they literally meant spicy when Paul was eating, and then he started tripping out, and then she's like, "Oh, it's too spicy for him," and I was like, "Oh, I didn't know they use pepper here," and it's like, and then he's like, "There's spice in the food."
Right.
When Paul was like tripping, he's like, "Oh, they put spice in here," and it's like, and that's why their eyes turn blue
Yes.
because they're like
Yeah.
eating the spice.
That's another thing that wasn't told to you directly. Unless it was in the first
The blue
movie.
thing.
Yeah, the
Oh,
blue
is that
thing.
first movie?
Yeah, yeah, it's in the first movie. Yeah.
They just didn't want to explain it this time,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
yeah. So like the spice thing was interesting because it's like, you know, like Rastafarians,
Mhm.
they're always like smoking ganj, right?
Sure.
And that's like the spice. They're always in an elevated state,
Mhm.
you know? I wonder what happens because they're leaving the planet, right? They're going back, they're going for war. What's going to happen if they don't have the spice? Like those people, are they going to like
Yeah, that I wonder
lose
now.
their abilities? You know what I mean?
That's what I was going to say. Are they being controlled by the spice? If they're
Oh.
if they whatever the word is when you stop doing things,
Yeah.
uh
Yeah, like abstain from it. Yeah, I know what
yeah,
you're trying to say.
yeah, do they lose that
Ability to see.
ability to see or to just
Yeah.
blindly follow, right? They become more critical of what they're seeing. Like you come out of it.
Yeah. No, totally. Maybe. Okay. With that, who's controlling who then? Because you're like, oh,
Yeah,
are they
that's
being
what I'm
controlled
saying.
by the spice?
It-
No, but like, okay,
Mhm.
go ahead.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Because
No, finish your thought.
it changed for Paul after he took it.
Yeah, because he started to see the future,
Yeah.
and then he was like, oh, I'm able to like, and then they needed to ramp it up to the next level, so they used the worm piss or whatever,
Yeah.
life water. You know what I mean? Like, so it's almost like you have that's why I'm like, oh, it has a psychedelic component to this movie because like you have like the low level psychedelics, which is like ganja, weed, and like that's almost like what they're imbibing in daily, right? It's like the Rastafarians. And then if you want to take it to the next level and see even further, you take a harder psychedelic, which is like ayahuasca. You could see into your mind more.
Right.
You know what I mean? And like that's the parallel there. But when you said who's controlling who, so what if, because with the stone ape theory, right? We were all monkeys and then we ate mushrooms and then we started to have creativity and like open our minds and stuff. What if we're all being controlled by these psychedelics to make innovations?
Mm-hmm.
Like what if,
Yeah.
like in real life,
Yeah.
what if in real life we think we're creative? Because there's so many people who attribute their breakthrough ideas to psychedelics.
Mhm.
Like Steve Jobs, like there's a whole list online. You could just Google it. Like all these like Nobel Prize winners who like have utilized psychedelics to create their invention.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So it's like Was that your idea, or was that the plant's idea?
Exactly.
Is
Yeah,
that
that's
Paul's idea, or is that the spice's idea?
hmm
You know what I mean? So it's like maybe these plants want to off-world, because why are we so obsessed with going to Mars right now? Maybe the plants are like, okay, we've done our job, we've colonized this planet, and then the mushrooms are like, let's go to another planet and colonize there.
hmm Yeah.
So we think that we are in control, but it's like the drug's in control.
Right.
The mushroom compound is trying to expand,
Yeah. Exactly.
and
Yeah.
just like the
And they're here
right, and
longer.
just like the
They were here
spice,
longer than us. Right.
right? Yes, yeah, they were. Yeah, they were. Yeah. If you watch like Paul Stamets when he talks about it, it's like we are mostly mushroom,
hmm
like us and the planet. So like fungi,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, like fungus, some mushrooms, yeah. But so if that's all true, and then you link it to Dune, it's like, what if the spice wants to off-world? Like,
Mhm.
who's really in control?
True. Yeah. Yeah.
Which is like again so meta,
Yeah.
because
There's
you're
so
like,
many. Yeah.
right? Like we believe we're in control because that's the story we told ourselves. But if you look at it
Mhm.
as if it was an organism independent of you, you're like, let's just look at this scientifically. Then you can see how theoretically maybe we're being controlled by the mushrooms. Maybe the mushrooms are forcing us to off-world because it wants to off-world.
Yeah.
Maybe the spice is creating Paul to become the Messiah because it wants something.
Sure. Right.
That sounds like so crazy.
No. No. Like it just
But,
wants the
like, it makes
destruction.
total
It
sense.
wants to. It was being
Abused?
abused of its resources. Now
Yeah.
it's retaliating. It is basically him destroying the economy. Is the
Oh,
spice?
dude, that's so meta. Okay. Yeah. Yes. So maybe because they kept like hurting the planet for the spice and spreading it throughout the galaxy, the spice is utilizing Paul to be its weapon.
Mhm.
Yeah, and take down
Right.
the economy that abused it.
hmm
This is some high talk, bro. Like, what are we talking about right now? But like, it's true though. Like, that's like very applicable. Actually,
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah. Exactly.
That's trippy.
So that's what I like about these movies, where it's not spoon feeding you. It's allowing you to
yeah.
take what you want from it. So we're just breaking it down. Here's another thing. Here's another thing. That's
Yes.
what sci-fi movies do. Good sci-fi movies.
You know what's? Yeah, totally. That's why it became my number one. But you know what's weird when you think about this? It's like everyone thinks about like a spiritual experience or a let's say life-changing experience. Everyone attributes like psychedelics to like a life-changing experience. And Michael Pollan, he made this book about he's like a botanist, right? And like I think a chef or something like that. But a nutritionist. He's like he's the one who wrote like Eat Plants. I forgot what it was, but he's anyways. So he did like a bit of a tangent, and he wrote a book on psychedelics. And what he was saying is that the thing that psychedelics do is, let's say you're tobogganing, right, down a hill, and then you keep tobogganing down the hill. So you're like, oh, like what happens when you toboggan down the same path? It gets faster, smoother, like the snow gets packed down.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And then like you can zip down that. And that's like our neural pathways that are strengthened, and we just like become habits.
I got you.
Right?
Yeah.
But what he said was, with psychedelics, it's almost like dropping fresh snow on the mountain, and now you can go different paths now. It opens your mind to new possibilities,
Right.
which is why the invention thing is applicable, right?
Right.
They're like, I attribute psychedelics to the invention, right? So it's like the spice and like what I'm trying to say is you don't need those psychedelics to create a new pathway. Even though he needed the spice, but like I think we can achieve life-changing paradigm shifts without psychedelics. Like life does do that. And I think that movie was kind of like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, did you feel that? Like, I didn't need to be under the influence to like be like, mind blown. But when I saw that movie, I was like, oh, this totally changed my perspective.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was like a psychedelic experience watching this movie.
Sure. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I think good art and taking away good life experiences can do that for you.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like going to Canmore and seeing the mountains. I was like, oh, we are tiny. Like it was a psychedelic experience, but I wasn't under the influence.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Yeah. And like people living that's their daily experience.
And then you habituate to it. And it's like, that's, you know? And then that's why you become it was funny because like I work with different people around Canada, right? And when I went to Canmore, because there are people I work with in Canmore, I was like, oh, I get you now. Because I'm so go, because that's Toronto.
Sure. City
But
life.
there,
Yeah.
I was like, why? Yeah, right. But they're like slower, they're more chill. And I was like, why are you guys like this? Like, how are we going to move? And then you see it and you're like, oh, yeah, if I lived here too, I'd probably not care at all about like this computer work.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like that's all you see, which is just like.
Yeah, there's two different things, right? Yeah, they're in a slow world in that sense. But when you're living in a city, everything's moving quickly. People are going things.
Yeah.
You get habituated to that feeling, right? That's
like
the norm. That's your norm.
Yes. Yeah. Your daily experiences and your surrounding really creates who you are.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we all think it's like I'm a byproduct of like this XYZ thing. Like, you know, everyone's like nature versus nurture.
I was just supposed to bring that up.
Really like, well, what?
I was just
nature versus nurture.
Yeah.
Yeah, right? Because everybody, like, they have that debate and it's like, oh, it's both. But it's like, we don't realize how true that is.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Paul became a whole different person by living on Dune.
Yeah.